You've probably watched plenty of videos online saying that one of the best ways to be productive or to turn your life around is with a dopamine detox, and that would be correct. However, what a lot of these videos fail to teach you is how to do it properly. I remember when I was in my school years, I would never be able to do any homework. I'd be sitting on the bus ride home. This was such a frequent occurrence, and I'd tell myself how, the moment I get home, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down and I'm going to get all my work done so that I can enjoy my evening. But, like a ritual, I'd sit down, and I'd try to get my work done, and I'd find it hard, and then because I found it hard, I'd then just take a quick break. I'd have a quick scroll, I'll kind of chill, get some food, and then before I know it, 3 hours had passed, and I had gotten zero work done. And this was because I wasn't capable of focusing when it mattered most. If I had just been able to push through that initial stage of doing my work, then I would have gotten my work done within an hour, then I'd be able to chill for the evening. But instead, I wasted time and created unnecessary pressure for myself, which made my life more difficult than it actually needed to be. And chances are you've experienced this exact same thing or something close enough to it. You want to be able to focus more to be able to do the right things that actually move your life forward, but you just have a hard time getting into that momentum. So what is going on here? Dopamine. You've probably heard of it. It's a neurochemical in your brain which revolves around reward and pleasure. Do something that feels good, your brain releases dopamine. So this can be things like completing a workout, an assignment, reading a book, eating a good meal, finishing work. But it can also be released with things that don't actually benefit your life. So we have things like watching porn, scrolling for hours on end, eating junk food, watching Netflix all day. Your brain is going to release dopamine either way. So our mission is to sway the energetic flow from these unproductive habits to ones that make our life better. This is where a dopamine detox comes into play. The word detox, however, doesn't really make any sense in this context. To detox is to cleanse ourselves of something, which we can't do with dopamine. So the true term that we're looking for would be dopamine fasting. So you know, like how people fast from food? We can do this with dopamine. The general idea is to just limit the amount of sources your brain gets dopamine from in order for it to become easier for us to do the habits which actually benefit us. So awesome, that helps. So how do we actually do this? With the first crucial step, and this is the most important step that none of these creators will actually tell you, you need a reason why you're doing the dopamine fast. So let me tell you something. A few months ago, I had an old friend that I used to be very close with when I was, back in my, late school, early college years, right? He messaged me. He came forth and he told me that he was wanting to try dopamine detox, and he had asked advice on how to do it properly, because this is something that I've been into for years. I've been all into the self-improvement kind of stuff, and I know a good bit about it. And it really made me think and consider how I used to do it. So back in the day, I used to approach dopamine detoxing, or dopamine fasting as we now call it, as the goal itself. That by doing this, I was somehow doing right. And this mindset is completely wrong, and it's probably something that you have fallen into yourself. So you need to view it like this. Dopamine fasting isn't the destination. It's the mode of transport. When you dopamine fast for dopamine fasting's sake, which is probably what you're doing because you hear it's good for you, you actually make it a lot harder for you to follow through with it. Because the reason you are dopamine fasting is because you want to dopamine fast because it's good for you, which is generally correct, but it misses just one crucial factor. You must have a reason why you are dopamine fasting. Allow me to explain. So just how like a car is a tool that will allow you to traverse through space in a quicker mode, dopamine fasting is a tool which allows you to enhance your focus so that you can be more productive in your chosen desire. So here's the kicker. What is the reason you are dopamine fasting? Let me guide you through this. So you come to me and you say, Lewis, I want to dopamine fast. And I'm like, cool, that's a really good thing, man. Why do you want to dopamine fast? And you say, oh, well, because I want to be more productive and I heard it's quite good for me. And I'm like, that's awesome, man. Why is that the case? And then you say, well, because, if it's good for me and, I'm more productive in my work, then I'm going to have a better quality output, meaning my work is going to be better. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome, man. But why do you want that to happen? Why do you want that to be the case? And then you answer, because if my work is of better quality, then the results of my work may benefit my life. So what we're doing here is something called Socratic questioning, whereby we repeatedly ask the question why, in order for us to find the root of our motivation. So currently, you look at dopamine fasting as the root of your motivation, which is the incorrect way of looking at it. Instead, what you need to do is see it as the flower that emerges from the root. And then what you need to do is trace the flower down to the root to find out what the true source of your motivation is. So dopamine fasting isn't the source for your motivation. There's a reason why you want to dopamine fast. There's something that's pulling you in this direction to improve your life. And if we find this out, we can then use that as our motivation. So let me give you a parallel example of what seeing dopamine fasting as the root will look like. So this would be like an obese person. Imagine someone really overweight, they're really fat, they look very unhealthy. Imagine an obese person wanting to lose weight because they've heard it's good for them. Generally speaking, yeah, we can admit, losing weight for the losing weight's sake is correct, right? But this is where the problem comes in. Because there is no emotional anchoring here, adherence to the weight loss journey isn't going to be strong. And this is why people fail. So many times, the biggest thing is when you see it in like January and New Year's, people are like, oh, I'm going to fix my life, I'm going to do this. They quit alcohol, they quit vaping, they quit smoking, they quit the drugs, they quit all these different things. But then what happens, because the reason for quitting was the reason they quit, they end up going back. It's because the emotional anchoring isn't there to keep them in the right place. So contrasting this, you have an obese person who wants to lose the weight because they are genuinely worried about their life being shorter, because if their life is shorter, then they're not going to be there to support their families and they're not going to see their grandkids grow older. And now we can see with this second example, there is a lot more emotional anchoring going on and taking place. This person has their why, they have their root and they have their motivation. This is what you need to figure out, the reason why you are dopamine fasting. This is important because when things get difficult, it's easier for the person who has an emotional anchoring for them to stay on track because they have a logical reason why they're doing it. So relating this to you, you need to ask yourself, why am I dopamine fasting? You need to find something emotional here. So an example, I will use myself here. I have a girlfriend. I absolutely love her to bits. One day, I want to marry her and I want to have children and I want to start a family. However, I can't do this without being financially capable, without providing for her and for our future family. Meaning, I need to be able to do boring work, which allows for me to have that financial capability. Making money, doing stuff, business can be quite boring, right? It's delayed gratification. So, because I have this desire, dopamine fasting is a tool that I use to help me do the boring work so that work can become fun and it's not tiresome. Meaning, because it's now more fun, I can do more of this work. Meaning that I will end up getting closer to my goal of being financially capable. So there is emotion behind the reason why I'm doing this. And this is why it's easier for me to stick to this to the long term, because if I was wanting to dopamine fast for the sake of it, it doesn't really help. But because I have tied it to something that I'm emotionally invested in and I wanted to succeed, when times get tough, it's easier for me to stay in the trenches. And this is what you need to figure out for yourself. You want to try and make the emotion bigger than yourself. So if you were to say to yourself, oh, I want to do it because I want to have more money, that's great, but why do you want more money? So I found that it's actually best to anchor the behavior of dopamine fasting to something that is kind of like a negative emotion. So, you want to think about losing something or missing out or, something like FOMO, right? Because oftentimes, as humans, we are actually more motivated by not losing or by losing than we are actually at winning. So I want you to imagine a scenario, right? Imagine you are told you have to run from one point to another. The total distance be, let's say, 5 kilometers, right? You could run that in probably a good time. It might be a little bit, it might tire you out a little bit, but you'll be able to get it done. So now, let's say, same scenario, except behind you, there is a mob of people who are going to kill you if they catch you. You have to run the same distance. Now, both of us know you will move a hell of a lot quicker and with a lot more intensity than if you were just told to head towards the target. This is because inside you, as a human, you have what is called the pain avoidance tendency, whereby you as an individual are more incentivized to move away from pain than you are to move towards pleasure. So we can utilize this when trying to create goals. So when you do a dopamine fast, you need to wield it as a tool with the knowledge that you are trying to move away from a certain reality. And what this is going to do is will enable you to have success in the long term. So now that you've done that, we need to take some practical steps to enable us to have success. So oftentimes you are sold the illusion that you need to add more stuff to your routine. You need to add things like meditation, cold showers, reading, journaling, running, waking up at 5 a.m. because this stuff is going to benefit you and it's going to make your life better. Now, these things do make your life better, but adding stuff is wrong. It's not because these things are inherently bad by themselves, but it's because subtraction is actually going to help you more than addition is. So when it comes to dopamine fasting and managing your dopamine and, the way your brain feels, adding stuff to your life and to your routine is only going to make things a lot more complicated for you because it makes it harder for you to stick to things. And as a result, your habits are going to slip and then you end up making no progress in the long term. We need to subtract things from our life, or you need to subtract things from your life. So what is it we need to subtract? It is behaviours revolved around instant gratification. The reason you want to dopamine fast is because you want the focus to be able to do the work that feels hard so that it becomes easier. But when you still engage frequently in instant gratification, it's going to make it harder to focus, so that you need to apply more willpower. And this is a really inefficient way of going about it. Trust me, I know this from experience. Willpower is only going to get you so far, and in the long term, it will lead to you burning out and you will end up quitting, which neither of us want. So, by you removing the things which create friction, you remove the need for willpower. So, back to instant gratification. Instant gratification habits are the things we're looking to remove because it means we won't have to instill as much willpower. Instant gratification can basically be defined as something which gives you immediate pleasure. So things like playing video games, watching porn, eating junk food, doing drugs, doom scrolling, that kind of stuff. You know the habits that I'm on about. But when we engage in these kind of habits over time, what happens is they can either stall our life quality, so it prevents us from growing, or they can actually diminish our life quality. So here's what that can actually look like in real time, just to give you an example. With video games, what happens is you put more energy into the actual game than you do to improve your real world skill. So years end up passing, and in the game, you've leveled up, you've really developed, you're really good at the game, but your personal self hasn't had that same attention, so you stay the same. You don't look any better, you haven't got any more skills, you've only been investing in the game, so then you haven't improved yourself. With porn, it makes you view women differently, which then makes it hard for you to interact with women. It makes you more lustful, which is going to contribute to the anxiety you have over talking to women, which then makes you single for longer, meaning you are going to be more lonely, you're going to be more depressed, and you're going to have lower self-worth than if you weren't watching porn. You see, it's a trade-off. You feel good in the moment, but then over time, it makes your life worse. You get the point that I'm making. So what we need to do is systematically remove these behaviors. This is because they cause your brain to have really large spikes of dopamine. And when your brain has large spikes of dopamine, it's going to make it more of an uphill battle when it comes to doing less stimulating tasks. Your brain is generally going to look for dopamine in the easiest way it can find it. So we need to make it so it's going to channel its energy into something which is healthy for us. Here's what you do. Sit down and list out all the behaviors that you deem to be unproductive or the ones that don't contribute to your life. So this could be smoking weed, gaming, eating junk food, doom scrolling. It doesn't matter, just put it down. Next, what you do is one by one, remove them from your environment. The reason why you want to remove them one at a time rather than all at once is because it's going to make it more manageable. So if you were to remove all of them at once, you would do well for a bit. You'd feel good. But then because the change is too drastic and your system and your body and your mind is not used to it, you are just going to revert back to your old routine. So thinking back to people in New Year's, right? They say they're going to change their life, they sort the finances out, fix every single aspect of their life. How many of these people actually stick to these habits? The majority of people that you know, they're back in the pub within 3 weeks. They can't stick to it. It's because they've given themselves too much of a workload. So this is something we really need to avoid. The idea we need to implement is to slowly move the barriers of your routine. I want you to imagine your life like a kingdom, seeking to expand itself and grow. Now, this kingdom could do this in a really full-fledged attempt to make itself bigger. It can exhaust its workers, it can spend loads of money, and what's going to happen is it's going to end up hurting itself as this kind of development cannot be sustained long term. Or instead, what the kingdom can do is it can slowly move the walls out. It can take its time. It can allow for the people to adjust. It can allow itself to recoup the money very, very slowly, and it can sustain this, meaning it can capture more and more land as time progresses, and it enables itself to grow and not diminish. The idea here is patience. So with this in mind, take the habit you want to get rid of. So let's say doom scrolling as an example. Completely remove anything involved with it in your environment. By removing anything, and I mean anything linked to it in your environment, it makes it easier for your brain to adjust to the new scenario. This is what I did when I cleared my social media scrolling addiction. What this looks like is deleting social media from your phone. Or with smoking weed, you end up deleting your dealer's number, which I did. Or with junk food, you remove the junk food from your house, which I also did. Your environment, and this is what not a lot of people tell you, your environment is going to be the biggest deciding factor when it comes to your ability to adhere to a dopamine fast and to change your situation. This is because if your environment makes it difficult, if you are surrounded by temptations, then willpower will only help you for so long, like we've discussed. Once you craft the environment for you to remove this behavior, what we now need to do is seek to use this energy into something more productive. This is the reason for your dopamine detox, or the thing that you're trying to dopamine detox for. See here, you have energetic potential as an individual, and this energy has to go somewhere. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transferred from one state to another. So I can promise you what will happen when you remove one habit. So let's say you remove social media, you are going to fill that time playing video games instead, because your brain, it really doesn't like empty space. So it's going to fill it with the most available option. But what you are going to notice is that now you have more attention to give. You're going to be a little bit more focused in everything that you do, which means you can now put this focus onto the things that have meaning to you. So if you've got work, you can work more. If you're studying for something, you have more mental real estate to study or to read or to journal. Ultimately, what this boils down to is about freeing up the space in your mind so that you can do things that move your life forward and make your life better. But this can only be done if we craft our environment to be one that is conducive to our success. What you need to do from this point is simply rinse and repeat this process until your environment makes it easy to perform the activity you need to dopamine detox for. I have done this, and I've used this exact method. I have cleared every single one of my addictions, from porn to video games, from scrolling to social media to weed. All these things I've removed from my environment. I'm telling you, this is the single biggest gold nugget of advice you will ever hear. Because at the end of the day, you were looking for a guide to help you organize your life. You weren't just looking to dopamine detox, because deeply you want to feel like you have direction and purpose in your life. But the thing is, you know that the current way that you live just isn't cutting it. So I'm proud of you for sitting through this video. I hope you've learned something from it. Remember, craft the environment around the life you want to live. If you've gotten value from this video, subscribe to my channel. It is a win-win for both of us.